ADRC's responsibility in every county is to have a high school transition person. Dane, we have about 6 people that specialize in that. Other counties may have just 1 person. But that would definitely be a place to start.
I think they do have that in Jefferson. We actually met with the one in Jefferson, ADRC.
Yeah, we somehow had it, got lost in the cracks along the way.
So you should hopefully still be able to reach out to them. And
Yeah.
hopefully they can be of assistance.
And that, I was just gonna say one more thing, that checklist we sent around should still be helpful.
Pretty pertinent, yeah. Do you guys overall, whether it's Dane County or Jefferson, like, all you guys kind of, if you had a choice, would you say kind of keep the kids in the high school, even though it's like not there all day, but like kind of stick with it till they're 21?
I would.
Okay, I mean, that's what, because we're all kind of toying like, we are doing that.
I think, you know, obviously every school and their resources and their teaching capacity is going to differ,
Right.
but I think the general idea is that that time is used to develop job skills. And,
Okay.
and it's still the school's responsibility.
And with the IEP process, you know, there are legal responsibilities that, in the adult world, it's not an entitlement program like it is in schools. So that's something to consider. You know, and for some students, it's just, high school hasn't been a good thing, you know. So there are a number of students that don't even go into the high school between the ages of 18 and 21. They have all their work that the school does outside of the classroom. So that is something that could certainly be discussed during the IEP process.
Can I just make a comment? So who's in Jefferson County? So I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jefferson County is family care Iris County, and it is an entitlement. So I guess it would mean that things are totally different than in Dane County. So you should be able to get the services through family care or Iris by going through your ADRC and doing the referral. And I think specific to the tech school, I think DVR would probably be able to fund part of the tech school component.
Any other questions?
No, thanks.
Stephanie?
Well, I'm from Lovedane, and some of you I think I've met with. Lovedane is an organization of families who have either young adults who are kind of high school age up into folks who have young adults who are there, we call them young adults when they're even 40, 50, families like you all who are trying to figure out the future, right? What's going to happen next? School's done, now what? Or even, you know, get late 20s and still nothing's changing and nothing's happening. So what we do in Lovedane is bring families together around issues that they want to work on. So initially that meant a lot of social activities. Families, when you're young adults out of school, their social life, their world kind of shrinks, and having an outlet for that, having a place to network and meet other families and also other young people has been really beneficial for a lot of folks. We've also had families organize around not just finding a job, but finding the job, and thinking around employment, customized employment. And we also, over the years, have done many different forays into this independent living idea. And we actually have a group of families right now that are thinking about creative ways, recognizing that there are no resources that are going to come and really do it for us. So if there's going to be any kind of solution, it's going to have to be family driven. And so families are looking at using maybe having their young adults live near each other and kind of benefiting from some of that proximity, which is something that the adult service system does as well. But there's an example out of Kansas City where a group of families have kind of created this whole little world, really, this place in the world for their young people that's inclusive of the rest of the community. But so that's something that folks are interested. We've also been talking about this idea of Independence Boot Camp. a lot of young people, the idea of moving out is either so foreign or so scary that it's hard to begin the conversation. You know, and I tell the families, you know, my brother, my family, we did it all wrong, right? We failed pretty spectacularly when my brother first moved out. And we've recovered from it. It's been 10 years. And you can recover from doing it badly. But there are better ways. And so we've talked about this idea of how do you prepare a young person to move out and to live independently. And knowing that as families, that can be kind of hard because they've been listening to mom and dad or not listening to mom and dad for their whole lives, and they might be done listening at a certain point, just like any other 20-year-old. And so kind of trying to think through, like, how could, if a group of families put together a boot camp and, you know, figured out how much money it would cost to hire somebody to run it, what would that look like? So those are the kinds of solutions that Love Dane comes up with, groups of families. And so I have a huge stack of papers here that I can pass out for those of you who haven't seen them. And then also these green sheets are, if you're not already getting information from us, emails, you can sign up on the green sheet and I'll get you added to our mailing list. We have a lot of events throughout the year too. Just, you know, we just had a few weeks ago our annual picnic. Just a chance to meet and mingle with other families and start to get connected. And you might kind of discover what I'm guessing you've discovered at some of these MADS events, that there's, you hear things from other families that are out there in the place where you are that might give you an idea or a glimmer of an idea, some way that you can maybe move forward instead of staying put where you're at. Because there are, you know, not a lot of resources no matter where you live. It's limited. So I will pass these to, yes?
Yeah, no, I,
Oh, you want some?
even though you're Dane County, I still want it.
Yeah. Yeah, so Love Dane, I guess I kind of explain. So we work with people with developmental disabilities. That's kind of where we began, but we don't care if you're eligible or not. Most of the folks we work with are eligible for DD services in Dane County, but there are folks in Love Dane that are either, you know, my brother is an example of that. He fell through the cracks, you know, didn't get on the train at the right time, and there you go. And we also work with folks in the mental health world and also the physical disabilities world. So we don't limit the organization for that. So
Do they have to live in Dane County?
it tends to be easier to attend events when you live in Dane County, but we've definitely had families from other counties that have made the drive.
Yeah, as with everything, transportation is always going to be an issue.
Yep,
It
that's,
is.
yep. So these are the green sheets. The yellow sheets are just info, and then these blue ones are the events that we've got coming up.
I apologize, I have to go.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
I think I'm good. Are there questions? Pass it over to Howard.
Okay.
All right.
I'm Howard Mandeville, here representing Moving Out. Moving Out is an organization that looks at what you're looking for your sons and daughters from the lens of housing, from the lens of helping people find a home, kind of recognizing that kind of what home means for all of us, but particularly important to people who are vulnerable because of their disabilities. And when you think about sort of the importance of where our home is and the kind of, that's where we end up going back to for our comfort, for our acceptance, for our refuge, to recharge our batteries, is really important. Over the years, I think that there has been a tendency, which I think we're overcoming now, but to help provide services to people with disabilities in a way that actually kind of diminish the idea of home for people. Instead of being able to maintain a home or to build a home that would be theirs, many people with disabilities were provided services in somebody else's home, or in more of an institutional kind of setting that didn't look like home at all. And it was really, I think, through the insights and the wisdom of parents of young adults with disabilities. They got Moving Out started, and got Moving Out started on a path towards helping people with disabilities establish this strong sense of home in their own home. We help people through a number of different means, and one of the things that I'm just kind of thinking about as I hear your questions and I hear about what's being offered, and part of that is, you know, what's not available or not immediately available because of waiting lists, is that capturing services really isn't an end. It's a means to get your son or daughter where you want them to be. And what I think Love Dane and Moving Out and some other organizations represented here show you is that to find that end, to find that goal that you have for your son or daughter to be a successful adult, doesn't necessarily depend entirely on a paid service system, because that will disappoint you if that's what you rely on because of you're just you know, the limits and constraints of that system. You know, developing an approach towards housing is, again, just another means to that end of how will our family member be sort of grounded in a place that they think of as home, in a community that gives them a sense of belonging and membership, and that links them with all the other facets of life that they're looking for work, for leisure, for giving back to the community, whatever it might be. We have a couple of different pathways that we work with families who are interested in planning the future of their sons and daughters, and particularly when that plan includes home. We help people purchase their own homes. We have almost 1,300 Moving Out homeowners around the state. And then we also develop primarily rental housing that we then make available to people with disabilities for rent. And because one of the important values that we have, and kind of recognitions of what works when we're moving towards this common goal, is the importance of having people with disabilities be an important part of what's going on in their community, to not have that housing segregated. Very often, I think, when we're thinking about, and the idea that was expressed here already is that that our son or daughter has some other associates with similar disabilities, and wouldn't it be good to sustain those relationships and to have that mutual support available to them over time? And to that I say, absolutely, it is. But sometimes the method to reach that end is done in a way that separates people with disabilities into a little clump, a little unit of several people with disabilities, and that ends up segregating them, making them seem kind of different, almost stigmatized by their difference because they're not part of the community. So I would encourage you to when you're looking at the importance of interrelationship and stability and safety for your son and daughter, to think about the value of being part of a community as sort of part of that plan to keep somebody safe, to keep somebody belonging to their community at large, where not just you as the family member are, have their back or are looking out for them, but that the community or neighbors at large do. One of the ways that we do that in our development is that we'll very often partner with other housing developers, with private housing developers, to develop a multifamily housing development that includes maybe 100 units of rental housing, but maybe only a smaller number of those units, say 10 to 12 units, will be then affirmatively marketed to people with disabilities. One example of that is in New Berlin, and Ram Malloy, who's here today, his daughter lives there, and one of the things that Ron and I think some other families did was to sort of get out ahead of the sort of be part of the planning from the get-go, and were able to secure a number of these units for their family members. And so this is the way that, and Ron probably could speak more eloquently to it than I can, but you know, picture this community for Ron's daughter. So there are, I think, are 110 units, 104 units, I'm not quite sure how many. 3 different buildings in this new development in downtown New Berlin, a place that really sort of didn't have a downtown all that much, but now is beginning to have one. This development is across the street from the library. It's within a couple of blocks of the retail that is going on there, including a Goodwill store. It's right at the center of things. This is really desirable housing. This isn't public housing or HUD housing or a project. It's desirable housing from the exterior. It has stone and wood, and it looks like the kind of place you'd want to live, or you'd want to have your mom live, or you'd want to have your son or daughter live. And intermixed within these 100 units are several units that are the moving out units, are basically the units that we helped subsidize the cost of through the affordable housing resources that we have, and made them affordable, made those rents affordable to people with disabilities, renters with disabilities, who, because they have disabilities, rely on SSI or Social Security disability, have pretty limited incomes. So people are able to live in desirable housing, their rents are made affordable to their income, and then the services that they get are you know, kind of are designed to be complementary with their role as a tenant, with their role as a neighbor. Moving Out doesn't provide those services, but the services in Waukesha County are available through this, you know, either through IRIS or through family care, and you know, I'm not quite sure what all the services that your daughter might need, but those are made available to her. Some of them are focused more on how his daughter can be successful in her work. Some of them are focused on how can she be successful as a neighbor and as a tenant who has, you know, responsibilities because she has her name on a lease. So, you know, where Moving Out comes in is to help people kind of think and dream themselves into housing that really makes sense for them. And I think one of the things that works really well, is to begin that planning early and to think about the various options that might be available at different points of adulthood in your sons and daughters' lives. Because what might make sense for a 21-year-old, whether they have a disability or not, in terms of where they live, might be very different when that person is 30 or 40. So I think, you know, for young adults, when you think about what is the kind of the norm for housing, you might think more in terms of a rental type of thing. You think about the value and the stability that you get from home ownership. You know, developmentally, that might come a little bit later. You know, we can help on the planning part and the information part, you know, through either of those. I guess I would just encourage you to think not only of how you can access those formal services through the human services system, but you also think about as families, as the people who love this young adult more than anybody, you know, what can you do to sort of build this plan and to make it a plan that can move forward. And I've got some information here too.
Could you, you know, when you talk about waiting lists, could you talk about the Section 8 waiting list in Dane County, if one exists, and what the merits might be of getting on that, if families have a thought of housing in the future?
We have sort of 2 waiting lists available in Dane County. One is the Dane County Housing Authority, which covers every place in Dane County except the city of Madison. And then the Madison is covered by the Community Development Authority. And each of them has waiting lists, but because there's such demand and there's such for a Section 8 subsidy, and because there's such little supply, the waiting lists themselves are closed. You can't even get your name on the waiting list. Every once in a while, they'll after 7 or 8 years, they'll see that this list is so old and creaky that, you know, people are either dead or found housing elsewhere, that they sort of renew the waiting list. There'll be an open period where people will have another chance to get on a fresh waiting list.